Welcome to War Bios, the podcast that delves into the lives of history's most fascinating military figures. I'm your host, General Biography, and today we're going to explore the captivating story of Charles Lee, a man whose life was marked by both brilliance and controversy. Born on February 6, 1732, in Cheshire, England, Charles Lee would go on to become one of the most intriguing and complex characters of the American Revolutionary War. As we embark on this journey through his life, you'll discover how his early years shaped him into a formidable military leader, with a unique blend of intellectual curiosity, strategic thinking, and personal flaws. Charles Lee was born to John Lee, a colonel in the British Army, and Isabella Bunbury, a member of a respected gentry family. His parents' marriage was marked by a strong sense of duty, honor, and loyalty, values that would be instilled in Charles from a young age. The Lee family resided at their estate, Darnhall, in Cheshire, a picturesque region in northwest England known for its rolling hills, verdant pastures, and majestic castles. Growing up amidst such grandeur, Charles developed an appreciation for the finer things in life, including literature, music, and art. As a young boy, Charles received his early education at home, under the guidance of private tutors who instructed him in the classics, mathematics, and languages. His parents encouraged his intellectual curiosity, fostering a love for reading and learning that would stay with him throughout his life. In 1746, at the age of 14, Charles was sent to the prestigious King's School in Chester, where he excelled academically and developed a strong interest in military history. During his time at King's School, Charles was exposed to the ideas of the Enlightenment, which would later influence his thoughts on politics, liberty, and governance. He was particularly drawn to the works of thinkers like John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau, whose writings on human nature, society, and politics resonated deeply with him. These intellectual influences would shape Charles's worldview, informing his decisions as a military leader and statesman. Upon completing his studies in 1750, Charles spent a year traveling through Europe, visiting cities such as Paris, Rome, and Vienna. This grand tour, as it was known, allowed him to broaden his horizons, meet new people, and experience different cultures. In Paris, he met the famous French philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who would later become a significant influence on his thoughts about human nature, society, and politics. Charles's travels also gave him an appreciation for the arts, architecture, and music, which he would carry with him throughout his life. He was particularly fond of the works of William Shakespeare, whose plays he had studied at King's School. The bard's themes of honor, duty, and loyalty resonated deeply with Charles, reflecting the values that had been instilled in him by his family. In 1751, Charles returned to England, where he joined the British Army as an ensign in the 44th Regiment of Foot. This marked the beginning of his military career, which would take him to various parts of the world, including North America, where he would eventually play a significant role in shaping the course of the American Revolution. This marked the beginning of his military career, which would take him to various parts of the world, including North America. In 1755, Charles sailed to America with his regiment to fight in the French and Indian War. During this conflict, he saw action in several battles, including the Battle of Fort Duquesne, where he was wounded in the shoulder. Charles's experiences during the French and Indian War had a profound impact on his worldview. He began to question the British Empire's treatment of its colonies and the native populations they encountered. These doubts would eventually lead him to become a vocal advocate for American independence. In 1760, Charles published a pamphlet titled The Principles of Liberty, in which he argued that the British government had overstepped its authority and that the colonies had the right to self-governance. In the years following the French and Indian War, Charles continued to serve in the British Army, rising through the ranks to become a lieutenant colonel. However, his outspoken views on politics and his criticism of the British Empire's policies towards its colonies made him unpopular with his superiors. In 1773, Charles resigned from the British Army and moved to America, where he settled in Virginia. It was during this time that Charles became acquainted with many of the prominent figures of the American Revolution, including George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Patrick Henry. He quickly became a respected member of their circle, sharing his military expertise and offering guidance on matters of strategy and tactics. In 1775, when the Continental Congress created the Continental Army, Charles was appointed as one of its first major generals. As a major general in the Continental Army, Charles played a crucial role in several key battles, including the Battle of Bunker Hill and the Battle of Long Island. His military expertise and strategic thinking were invaluable to the American cause, helping to turn the tide of the war in their favor. However, Charles's temperament and personal flaws often put him at odds with his fellow officers, including George Washington. Despite these challenges, Charles remained a committed advocate for American independence. He continued to serve in the Continental Army throughout the war, playing a key role in several important battles, including the Battle of Monmouth and the Battle of Kings Mountain. In 1780, Charles was captured by British forces while on a reconnaissance mission behind enemy lines. He was held as a prisoner of war for over a year before being exchanged for a British officer. Following his release, he returned to America, but his health was declining, and he became increasingly disillusioned with the politics of the new nation. In 1782, Charles published a pamphlet titled The Present State of Virginia, in which he criticized the Continental Congress's handling of the war effort and argued that the country needed a stronger central government. Despite his criticisms, Charles remained a respected figure in American society, and he continued to correspond with many of the prominent figures of the Revolution, including George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. However, his personal life was marked by turmoil, and he never married or had children. In 1782, Charles moved to Philadelphia, where he became embroiled in a series of public disputes with his critics, including a notable feud with General Henry Knox. As the years passed, Charles's health continued to decline, and he suffered from a range of ailments, including rheumatism and asthma. In 1784, he began to make plans to return to England, where he hoped to receive better medical care and reconnect with his family. However, he never made it back to his homeland, as he died on October 2, 1782, at the age of 51, in Philadelphia. Charles Lee's legacy is complex and multifaceted, reflecting both the brilliance and controversy that marked his life. He was a skilled military strategist and a passionate advocate for American independence, but he was also a difficult and cantankerous individual who often clashed with those around him. Despite these flaws, Charles played a significant role in shaping the course of the American Revolution, and his contributions to the war effort should not be forgotten. In the years following his death, Charles's reputation underwent a significant transformation. Initially, he was remembered as a hero of the Revolution, but over time, his legacy became more nuanced, with many historians criticizing his personal flaws and controversial actions. Today, Charles Lee is regarded as one of the most fascinating and complex figures of the American Revolution, a man whose life reflects both the turmoil and upheaval of his time. That's all for today's War Bios. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, I'm General Biography reminding you to keep marching toward victory.